Hello, everybody. This is our second podcast, guys. Second podcast. We're so excited. We got our first one done, and I was lucky enough to have our friend Jamiel Owens come pop by, and he's a lot more experienced in this field than I am, especially the podcast world. So we were going to have him come by, chat for a little bit, let us know what you're all about, what inspires you, what you do, because you do a bunch of stuff.
I don't do nothing. I drink coffee and sit at home all day.
Right. You look like it. No. So I first saw what you were posting on the Philly Autism page, and I really like that page because it's brought me a lot of different people that I can connect with that otherwise I'd have no idea. Like you said, you're in one county, I'm further up. Like, wouldn't get to know who you were. So, what have you found on pages like that in regard to being able to put your message out there, and has it helped?
So, I want to say, first off, congratulations on the podcast. So, let's get that out in the way. Let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you.
There are so many different outlets for us as caretakers, as parents, as autistic individuals. That is one outlet that I find very, very helpful. On the other hand, there are spaces that are created just like that I see that are more detrimental to the community that we're building more than helpful. Give an example. These administrators are not really mitigating the content or the comments that are coming in. We're having mothers who are unapologetically being vulnerable and saying, hey, this may sound like a stupid question, but and we have people on there tearing them down. Not everybody, but we have people tearing them down. And as a community, as from the Ausome community, like I like to say, we come to the aid to defend that parent, but also to educate the other parent as well. So I want to say that out in the open, it's a great resource and a tool in itself, especially when it comes to podcasts like this, my podcast, what I do. It's a great resource and a tool to get out programs, resources, things that are actually happening in the community, which would otherwise be impossible for one parent to see. As you know, we're out here and we're grinding, we're doing what we need to do, and that perspective can give us tunnel vision sometimes. So to be able to know there's other people in this community engaging in things is very helpful. I use it all the time. To get out things that I'm doing, but also too in the hopes that there's specifically men. There's another autism father that is looking at everything, or even a wife that's like nudging, like, hey, you know what? You can do it better than him. You got this, that, and that. That's what I want. So I want to encourage.
Do you think that dads specifically of autistic children, do you think that they are more nervous and just lost when it comes to having an autistic child or a child with any type of disability? And I don't know if that's coming off the right way, but because moms are naturally, or so people think, the caretaker, whatnot. Sometimes when I have people like tours and things, the dad is always very excited to see what's going on. As far as the behind the scenes logistics, they seem kind of like, I don't want to speak on that. I don't feel like they're empowered enough, if that makes sense.
So the empowerment is a great thing, and you're speaking, so I can speak off of personal experience. We are excited to see our child born and to grow with them and see the potential of our youngins to grow up. What we get scared and kind of derailed from that is the developmental delay, is a diagnosis of autism or any other condition. We start to feel our pride and our ego take over our mental capacity of understanding what our role is at that point. So I don't think we're scared. It's just that now we're dealing with a whole different type of mental thing going on. How am I supposed to prepare this child that has now this diagnosis? What does that look like? Especially if you don't come from a household that have these challenges earlier on in life. is going to be very hard. For me,
Yeah.
it definitely was a stab at an ego. It was definitely a stab at an ego. I kept on saying I versus, okay, how can I be there for my wife at that time?
Mm-hmm.
Who is my child now that I have this diagnosis? How can I understand them?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's that we are scared. I think we're just unprepared socially,
Right.
societal wise.
Right.
We are prone to go out into the workforce to provide and to come home. Whereas though we rely on our partners, and if for single parents we take that other role on too.
Yeah.
We are not supposed to, by societal rules,
Right.
we're not supposed to try to engage in the unraveling of a disability or a condition with our child.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we have doctors, that's why we have scientists, researchers, and things like that. But I'm here to tell you that that is absolutely wrong. We are actually here to help our mothers lead the forefront as far as this fight of education and acknowledgement and resources and accountability above the neurotypical community for the neurodiverse community.
Yeah. And I feel like one of the big issues, and it's even with mothers, it's with parents of autistic children or parents of even friends of, the inability to really relate to that child in those early years can become such a play on, as you said, your ego. He doesn't like me. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm not into that. I don't know what he likes. And that in itself is such a barrier in all of this. So I can only imagine, not only is that hard for a mother, but a father, it's got to be difficult. My husband has immersed himself as much as he can. He's not as good as me when it comes to identifying Pokemon. However, he likes it. He will talk to the boys about it. They're excited to tell him about what Pokemon they caught. He's going to be 42. You know what I mean? But you have to be that person for your kid. So how about for your son? Cutie, both of them.
He's all right. He's all right.
Handsome little dude. But when he was a baby, what did you first relate to him with? Do you remember that one time or one thing where it was like, this is our thing, like this is where I can engage you in?
Wow, that's a good question, because there's so many different things to unpack there. He's a stickler for trains now, so he's a history buff as far as trains. A lot of different things. He's like moving into that cosmic atmosphere of comic books now. So I'm happy about that, to see his imagination grow. Back then, it was, oddly enough, it was just really the study of him. So what I connected on was understanding what excites him. And thriving off of that excitement and adding to that excitement by doing a little research, or even if I wasn't interested or didn't know that much, at least acting as if I was interested in what he was talking about or trying to show me. But at the same time, I was fortunate enough in some circumstances to introduce new things to him. So one of the things that, growing up in North Philly, I cannot say that I had a very hard life. I struggled. My mom, she did the best that she possibly could. But things like going to the aquarium, going to the zoo, which are things that we kind of take for granted right now, but those are the building blocks for a solid foundation of connection between a father, parents and their children in general. I was able to take him not only to a aquarium, but to the National Aquarium. So we drove down in
Boston? Maryland?
Baltimore. We drove down there. We stopped at a Waffle House. Me and him ate. So it's funny because I took the original picture of us, our heads like this, holding the menu, and then we just recently went down there again and we reenacted the picture. So it was great to be able to do that. But for him to see animals in their natural habitat, and for me to be able to explain to him at a younger age allow for me to be immersed in his world and my world
Yeah.
simultaneously.
Yeah.
So, you know, for other parents, it may be different. It may be getting involved directly with trains and understanding what their names was,
Right.
you know, or
Right.
it might be, if it's a young little girl, like understanding her likes of different characters, cartoon
Yep.
characters,
Yep.
or different personalities as far as like doll figures and things like
Mhm.
that. It looks different for every child because every one of our children are different, right? Um, I just encourage men to actually engage in these social stories. So, regardless if your husband knows it or not, which is the incredible thing, I do with my son. So, I have him like every other weekend or as much as possible. He lives with his mom. And I engage in his social story for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, I turn the music down. He
Yeah.
gets in the car and he's like, okay, this is what happened for 2 weeks. And he breaks it down by day of exactly what he did by hour. And I listen. And I listen with intent. Two things.
Yeah.
I'm teaching him interpersonal skills,
Yeah.
how to communicate with somebody effectively, even if it's me,
Yes.
how to talk, and be confident in telling his story about
Yeah.
what exactly he did. But I'm also gaining knowledge of who my child is.
Yep.
So these are the parental social stories that you must have
Yeah.
with your child.
Right.
Very, very important. So I encourage men to involve in these social stories on a daily basis. If you're like me, you have your child every 2 weeks, give them a
Right.
call over the phone to say,
Right.
hey, what's been going on? Or if not, wait till they're with you and just ask them what's going on with your week. You
Yep.
know, what happened, you know? I think that's most important.
I found that car rides.
Car rides are the truth.
Oh man.
Car rides are the
What
truth.
comes out? I remember that show, Taxi Cab Confessions. Right? That show a long time ago, but this is like how it be. Because my daughter will say some things and then it's like, probably shouldn't have said that one. And then my twins, they unleash.
They go right in.
They unleash.
Uh-huh.
And for me, it feels like that term that just, in my opinion, recently came up like masking.
Mm-hmm.
So they spent all day at school
Masking.
They come home and they lay it on me. And I intently, like you said, you have to listen intently.
Yeah.
They know.
They know.
I get this from my one son. He'll go, "Don't placate me."
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm so sorry.
I tell parents all the time too, when I'm speaking to parents, I'm like, there's a term, so we all use this in the community, nonverbal, non-speaking.
Yeah.
An individual from the community, shout out to Ben Krim and his family, taught me. He pulled me to the side because I had him involved in one of my events. And he said, Jay, I want to tell you something, the difference between non-speaking and nonverbal. And I said, okay. He said, nonverbal means that I can hear you.
Yeah.
It's just that I can't communicate back with you in the same dialect that you communicate with me.
Yeah.
Non-speaking means I can't hear you and I can't understand everything.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And I sat back and I was like, okay.
Right.
That makes sense. Okay. I get that. I actually, you know what? Reverse that. That's wrong. It's the other way. So nonverbal and then non-speaking. Sorry.
Got
So
it.
nonverbal
Got it.
is the lack of, I'm not able to verbalize with
There
you,
it
the
is.
non-speaking.
Yeah.
So I apologize.
Yeah.
It's my fault. A lot of things thinking about. So, and I tell parents all the time is that do not assume that your child is not understanding
Right.
what you are saying or what you are doing around them. They may not be able to communicate with you effectively on their rebuttal to what you're doing, but they understand truly what you are doing and what you're saying. So parents, when you're having those disagreements, take it to the other room or wait till they're asleep at night. If you are worried about certain languages to use around that child, then don't use it.
Yeah.
Think about other ways to communicate what you're actually trying to say without being offensive to your child. Shane goes to things with me, and I ask him, hey, how do you feel that we are about to be in this place with amazing people just like you? I use it just like that, with people just like you.
Right.
I'm okay with it, Dad. Are you sure? Yep. Anytime you feel
Yep.
disengaged by it or you feel some type of way, let me know and we're out of there. And he lets me know.
Right.
He's at an age right now that he understands, like, okay, you know what? I have a voice. And I always make sure he understands that. He has a voice and he can always tell me what's going on in his mind.
has he ever participated in, so my kids, we had a little issue. They go to a tech school, my twins.
Okay.
An issue arose in regard to what teachers thought they were capable of. Very, very crazy assumptions were made. They wouldn't be able to use certain tools. They're painting, decorating, jigsaws, power, whatever. And I said to them, this is what I've been fighting for your entire life, to show everybody that you guys can do it. Now it's your turn. You're gonna be 16. You sit at that meeting, you take what you have learned and you voice your opinion. And they sat there with this smirk on their face, like, go ahead and tell me I can't. These boys have made me so many cute, cool things, jigsaw, this, that, and the other. It's just, you see, like you showed me before we came on here, the homecoming picture.
Yeah.
You see those things and you almost want to cry. You get chills. Because it's like, oh man, to think that someone thought that kid's autistic. No, he's going to homecoming and he's living his best life. So it's just, there's so many things to say about what people think of children who have autism. So have you ever had him participate in his own IEP?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, all the time. He's at that age, and actually, we are blessed, and when I say we, is me and his mother are blessed to have a educational system that supports that. Garnet Valley, so shout out to Garnet Valley School District. They're great with my son Shane and other individuals just like him. I think there's so much of a disparity here. We have to recognize that the educational system, and I had the opportunity to go down to Vanderbilt University in Nashville.
Oh wow!
And they had a recruitment and retention conference about research, and the revolving question: how do we keep people engaged and involved in our recruitment? And I basically wrote out what I've done in my particular position, and I said it's simple: you have to be there. So in that, I focused on 3 groups, which were the caregivers and families, the educational system, and then the healthcare system. And in the educational system specifically, I gave the facts that our educational system has been born in the early 1800s. The first school, don't quote me because I don't have it behind me. But
we don't have our resources, but trust.
The first school was actually implemented into the United States as a secondary school for those with these impairments, and that was 60s, but don't quote me. I have it all written down. We basically have been feeding off of that ever since. So what I wanted these scientists to understand is that, you know, in the Constitution we have amendments, right? So amendments are not to change the Constitution, but to add on to the Constitution certain things that we want to take in consideration to some of the founding statutes in it.
Right.
Our children are amendments.
Right.
We have a system that is old as dirt.
Right.
And does not specify our children, because back in the day they labeled these children what? Mentally retarded. For a term we don't like, that no one should be using at all. I don't even care if an individual fits that criteria. Let's not call them that because that's degrading. We are using that criteria for our children, and our children are smart. They're intelligent. They're gifted. Now, some people might argue, well, Jay, you know what? There's a difference between those with a intellectual disability and autism. Yes, it is, and it's an IQ score above a certain area. But best believe those individuals that may fall below that score are still talented in some area or some form, in contrast in which we are struggling at as far as neurotypical individuals. When you look at the education system, we are attaching our children onto a system that is not built for them or built to include them. So what we have is we have instances like this where there's a confidence issue with our children. Now, this is the same school district that we are charging with building up our children's confidence in not only the science and the arts, but also self-confidence and to be leaders of the future. How are we doing that if the system doesn't even recognize that? Now, on the flip side, because I didn't forget you teachers, your educators, us as parents, we have to work with our education team. Parents, you have to understand that majority of the schools out here, they do not have a system in place because they are not getting the funding or the knowledge from the administrative staff in order to
100%.
implement these things. So if you are a parent with bad communication skills and you are cursing at your teacher and you are pushing them against the wall, what you think going to happen? They're going to come out swinging. So instead of that, what I do is I actually appear at some of the IEP meetings as a peer support to that individual parent, but I also make aware that the teachers who are there and present, that I'm also here as a mediator to help with the communication between both sides. We have to work with our teachers. If you don't know what autism is, let's get you some education on it. How, as a parent, can I make my home life easy and fluid to be implemented into the classroom? What support can I give you as a teacher to make my child's experience better for both you and my child? Those are the conversations that we have to have, because I honestly, until we get people into this Philadelphia school system to sit on the board who are actually autistic or have lived experiences, this system is not going to change. And you know, it's school systems all around the country. We have to be able to acknowledge it, but it starts with us, the everyday blue collar workers who are trying to make a difference locally to actually implement change nationally. It's a lot. It's a lot. That's a lot to say, but I'm passionate about that. It's a great question that you asked, and I just feel like there's room for growth. There's so much room for growth.
There really is, and I've been in those situations where you come into an IEP meeting on behalf of somebody else, and you're there to help, but it is never initially thought of as a mediator. It is always very scary for the teacher and almost empowering for the parent. And I think what we need to do is get rid of that narrative and let the, like you said, let the parents work with the teachers. We understand there's disagreements, we get that, but at the end of the day, they're with your child for a very long time. They want to make their life easier, which means they want to help you. So we need to stop going in there fighting. We really do.
Work together.
There's a difference between fighting for your child and being petty. Okay, so we can't be petty.
You can't be petty. You have to remember that at the end of the day, regardless of the PhD or education statute of that individual, that they are people. And they're trying to make a change. They're there for a why. And the why was because they have a passion to serve others. So with that being said, they want to serve you and your child. Now, on the other hand, your child is a very outspoken and very self-motivated, driven individual, right? And we have to somehow teach that educator a new lesson in life, something that the books don't teach. One thing I learned, because I used to be a corrections officer, and I talk to law enforcement and first responders, I speak to them as well too, is that one thing you have to remember is that I'm going to teach you what you need to know, the basis, as far as the Department of Corrections, whatever state it was. I was in Delaware. But when you get into that prison, when that door shut behind you, all that's out the window. Now class is in session. Now you have to learn the real life. And this is the real life that we have to teach our educators. Hey, listen, Mrs. Such and Such, I apologize. You know, I've been coming at you a little bit different. You know, after school, can I come by? Is there a coffee I can bring you or something like that? We can just chat over my child, try to get a good rapport and see, okay, you know what? This is what I do at home. Is this something that you can do at home? Hey, the teacher sitting back, hey, you know what? This is something I do at home. Is this something that you can, this is something I do in class. Is this something you can do at home? And have those open conversations and be like, you know what? Let's try it. First name basis. Let's keep the contact on the telephone numbers and the emails. And I think this is something we can self-rectify and help the school system and be like, hey, we don't need you. We already came together and we're working not only for our child, but for all the children that are just like my child. That's what the community is about.
And one of my sisters is a special education teacher. And she does, I forget what grade, I believe it's elementary. And like you said, they're people. And they're there, there's a reason, there's a why, and her why is a great reason. But to see the emails that she'll get sometimes at 9 o'clock at night, and the money that she spends on her classroom and these token systems that they use and the prizes and this and that, and just I really do hope you parents understand the amount of work that teachers are trying to do. There's bad people in every field.
There's bad people all over this
There's
world.
bad people everywhere. You can't let that deter you. And you have one bad argument with the teacher, start the next day fresh.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Start
It
the next
doesn't
day.
matter. There's no pride involved. So I just feel like that's a good issue that you brought up.
Yeah.
Now I do have a question for you
Yes.
because I don't know this much about you. What do you do? Are you allowed to talk about Car? What you're doing there?
So I am, because I'm not implementing anybody in a bad way. So
Right.
I am the family relations coordinator at the Center for Autism Research. Once again, my background is law enforcement. I'm also a volunteer firefighter. So that's my background. It's been my background my whole life.
Yeah.
Always wanted to serve people in that aspect. And then I was blessed with the opportunity to engage in something that I love to do,
Right.
and that is to advocate not only for my son, but for others, families,
Yeah.
autistic self-advocates, autistics themselves, to give them a brighter shine out of life, to give them their 15 minutes of fame per se.
And can
know.
I jump in real
Yeah.
quick? I want to note, because it was a very long time where it was people with autism. We did that people first thing. And I'm going to say, my friends who are autistic, my
Okay.
children as well, they're autistic people.
Yeah.
So I'm just in case we have someone who thinks we're being rude.
Yeah.
Rude. That's the way
That's-
that I am told to say it.
That's the way. There's so many.
Yes.
My whole thing is immerse yourself in the actual community.
Yeah.
So as a caretaker and a professional too, I actually interact and work with individuals who are on the spectrum, autistics, and I pick their brain. I talk about some of the language, ableism language, things of that nature. Learn that.
Yep.
Because that is self-identifying features and things that we should all learn. We want to be appropriated by the correct name.
Yeah.
By all means, we want to be acknowledged for who we are as an individual. So please immerse yourself into those questions. Hey, how should I refer to you? Is there
Yes,
anything that you feel
exactly.
comfortable with me saying, not saying? Learn the individual, not the actual label or diagnosis.
Yes.
I tell people I have a son that happens to have autism. His name is Shane.
Yeah.
So now I'm identifying that I have a son with a name, Shane, that happens to have autism.
Yeah.
The diagnosis is over here. I want you to get to know my
Yeah.
son first, and then you'll start to see the diagnosis. But I'm letting you know both aspects at the front. So that's something too that we gotta start getting in our own vocabulary as parents. Our children are individuals and they have a personality and a great spirit, and you want people to recognize that.
It takes a while sometimes for parents to understand that. And
Yeah.
what age are you seeing at the research center? Is it all encompassing? Because I remember doing quite a few when the boys were little. We would make a day out of it. I don't know if it's still on Market Street. Was it on 36 and Market? Something
Yeah,
like
so
that.
so we got it 35 Market Street.
There it is.
So we have that, but then also too we got this nice little shiny building, Roberts Building, that's right by, that's over the South Street Bridge, right on the Schuylkill River. So we're right there. So we have research opportunities all across the age range. Now we introduce our brand new program, which is called the Passage Program. Shout out to Dr. Ben Years. Shout out to Dr. Kaplan Khan, Ellie. She's at home, with her new bundle of joy, her and her husband, so shout out. Then we have Susanna, which is my boss, Susanna Reimer. They're intricate parts of the actual program. And this transition program is very, very unique because we actually gather self-advocates from our area to sit down and say, okay, as an autistic adult or preteen or that transition stage, what do you want out of a program? What matters the most to you? And they gave us their feedback, and we built a program all encompass of it. So that's a brand new program that we have.
Transitioning into adulthood.
Yes.
So like 14 years old, pretty
So
much
it's
is when that
15, and I apologize, 15 to 24.
starts. Okay.
That is the program age. I could be off by one as far as the ending age, but that is the transition period.
Yes.
Here's a thing that I want you to know, because I'm realizing this and I'm starting to think about this. As much as we go hard in the early intervention and making sure those things
Yes,
are set up, you have to think about your child's future. You are not guaranteed here tomorrow. So what does that look like? That looks like financial education. That looks like setting up a resource for your child in the future. That's setting up that circle, whether it be family or maybe friends outside of the family, in which you entrust your child's care to be in.
Yeah.
The thing that I want you to know is that that transition stage is going to come right around the corner.
How quick?
Right around the corner. My son is 15.
So quick.
I'm thinking about that now. What does that look like for him in my eyes? But I'm also listening to him. What does it look like in his eyes? And seeing where we can compromise.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying by compromise is because, once again, I'm respecting him as an individual that happens to have autism. So he has a voice and he has an opinion. And I would like to, as a parent, to guide him towards the right thing.
Yeah.
And I want him to understand what the right thing would look like in my eyes, but I have to see what it looks like in his eyes as well too. And sometimes that's kind of hard because we go by societal rules. Well, that doesn't make sense, or I don't see that. Your white picket fence parents is different than your child's white picket fence.
Absolutely.
And you have to respect that. You only want them to be successful, vibrant members of society at their own pace, at their own time, but they want to be able to be self-sufficient too. So it is very important for that transition stage. Think about that now. Don't waste any time about that.
And it's interesting because regardless of severity of disability, the independence piece of it is something that everybody wants. And it doesn't matter the severity. We have children, and to me, it looks different because I'm dealing with the behavioral aspect of things. So when children reach that age where typical teens would be doing typical teen things like getting in trouble and talking back and getting sassy, when they do that, it's almost like bring it, because I want to hear that. That is not what we deem socially inappropriate. For my kids, when they dropped a little H-bomb on me, I welcomed it.
You like,
yeah.
Oh, okay, all right, look at that.
You're up there with the big boys
you're
talking.
up there with it. Now, don't say that again, but
Yes.
I'm proud of you though. I'm
Yes.
definitely proud of you for definitely doing that. We have to look at a different lens with our children.
Yeah.
Our children are still sponges. They're still just like every other child. They're sponges. They gather up information. So, a lot of children mainstreaming their child that is putting them into a school with peers who are neurotypical may not be the best result for them. For my particular son, it was actually the best result for them,
Right.
because he got a chance to show his own character and be his own individual self, and able to sit there and communicate with other people and friends.
Did you ever have an issue with bullying?
So,
And that's a whole topic on itself.
That's
and I'm
a-
sorry because I'm a bit ADHD, so I go all over.
No. So, thank God we haven't. And I ask him this all the time: is there someone bullying you? Do you have an issue? And he says no.
Okay.
Now Shane is a little bit. Sometimes he could just be in his own world, so he may not even know people are saying stuff. He's just like,
Yeah.
whatever, dude. I'm in my own lane. I'm enjoying life. That's what it is.
What a blessing. In
It
itself.
is a blessing, but my heart still goes out to families that are dealing with it.
Yeah.
Educators that are dealing with it, other families who are at the other side of it with their children. So it is still something that I will hold on to my heart, because he's going to be a teenager and an adult. That still can happen. What that looks like is different. These are the foundations that we must teach our children, even in face with it, is that you love everybody for who they are. You respect people for who they are. You respectfully tell them your opinion, and then you walk away if that is not resolved.
Right.
Those are the 4 attributes that I put into them. Some of the things that I think a man should be, and we're not basing it off of color or ethnic background. We're just talking about being a man. You should be able to state your opinion of who you are and your belief system. And if somebody disagree, you'll walk away from it.
Right.
And you won't hate them. but you'll know that they have a different opinion from you.
Yes.
So these are the things that I instill with him, and I hope that he doesn't have a case of bullying.
Right.
I'm waiting for it.
Yeah.
And
you are.
I'm waiting for it because I want to see, for one, how he handles it.
Yeah.
And then two, if he needs the assistance of me, how I'm coming in to actually handle it. Because I have to conduct myself not only as a parent, but a representation of him, my family, and then as a professional too.
Yeah.
So now I have a lot of different people who are eyes all on me.
Yeah.
So how I handle it now, how I handle it 4 to 6 years ago is not the same way of what I'm handling it right now.
Isn't it amazing what some years do to you?
Yeah.
For me,
besides getting old and getting grades and everything like that.
That whole bad part of it.
Yeah.
But the knowledge that just comes after years and years, and you just think, I can't believe I went about it before. I can't, but
I mean, we all learn.
That's all of us.
We all learn. We're not perfect, and I think the more we understand that we're not perfect, the more we can actually acknowledge autistic individuals
100%.
because they're not perfect either, but they see the world in such of a different lens that it opens up your eyes and your heart to what truly fundamentally matters to you. Shane literally saved my life. He literally saved my life. I was angry at the world. My mom actually, I've been on my own since 16, so my mom kicked me out because of mental health issues. Dropped out of school, had to get my GED, lived on my own, was working, and
Where'd you grow up?
North Philly. So I was born in Houston, Texas. Then I moved up to 17th and Susquehanna, and that's where I was raised at. But I moved all around the city, sleeping on people's couches and things like that. And me and his mom, we separated and we got divorced, and I was just wilding out, and I was so angry because my mom was out in the streets, homeless. I had a lot of hate in my heart, but Shane always showed me the love, and not to get spiritual, but he showed me the love that God was trying to bestow against me, which ultimately started to peel back those layers of hurt and regret. So a lot of my past pain and hurts, I look at it now as fuel to help educate other fathers, other mothers, to try to get past that hump. That's the best thing that I can do as far as leaving a legacy on this planet. Like, what did you do with all of that knowledge that you've gotten? Whether it cost you something, whether you got hurt, what did you do with all that? And the best thing you can do is serve other people. So I made sure Shane sees me in action so he can learn how to share who he is, what hurts him, what makes him happy, and also too with his goal, because all our children, all autistic children and adults too, they just want to make us happy. They just want to make sure that we're taken care of and everything, and it aligns with his goal to make people happy and content with who they are and what's going on around them. So,
like, what an innocent heart. That heart is just
we always trying to strive to do better, and we have an example in some of our families by these individuals. They are a true example of what we struggle with as neurotypical people every single day to accomplish in our lives. They do it just like that, and it gives me fuel and power to get up every day and see the silver lining what most people won't see.
Now, we did car, so you're over there at the research center doing your thing. Are you Santa Claus? Santa Claus?
Yes, so I do. For you guys that don't know, I have my own nonprofit too. So I have.
Don't let the kids watch this.
Yeah, don't let them. So I do. So let me run it down. So before my job at Carr in 2014, I started this platform called the Ausome Show.
That's what I wanted you to.
Podcast.
Yeah.
It's a safe space for fathers to come gather information, to let go some of their stressors, to kind of combine knowledge, education. Feedback, and be able to be pillars in their community and also their homes as well. It was a safe space for women to come on there. I had a lot of first-time women that was exposing their feelings, their thoughts, and their stories about their child. Had educators, I had Christian rap stars, I had a lot of different people on the podcast. That was an online radio show that grew into social media. So I'm on social media. You can find me, The Ausome Show. So I'm going to do a shameless plug. It's
Good.
U
Okay.
SOMESHOW. Awesome. AUSOMESHOW. That moved from online radio to online television to a podcast back, and now I'm back on online radio. So it's from 2014 to now, it has continued on amongst me working 2, 3, 4 jobs. That allowed me 2 years ago, where are we at, 23? 21, to start a nonprofit called Awesomeness Incorporated. Now, Awesomeness Incorporated is a overall fundamental approach to what I've been doing with the Ausome Show. Being out in the community, doing events. Now I have a nonprofit organization that put that under to if I'm looking for potential sponsors to help get product out to the community. Now I have an EIN. You guys know what it is when you do donations and stuff. One of the biggest things that I've done 2 years in a row is actually dress as Santa, a sensory Santa or a sensitive Santa, and partner with organizations to offer this for their families. Now, I do this out the kindness of my heart. I don't charge organizations. I say, hey, if you want to make a donation to my nonprofit, I would thank you. I'll give you my EIN for your tax, but it's not necessary. I bring, the camera crew there. They offer packages that are very, very affordable. We make this an all-inclusive, all-inclusive program for everybody to participate into it.
So much. That's so good.
I also do with this sensory Santa is that sometimes there are people who are underserved and very, very low-income families that can't even make it out to the malls, or maybe they have a child with so many different sensory needs that going to a mall may be detrimental to who they are. So I offer to come to their homes for absolutely free so that the family can actually take pictures. And for that I try to partner with organizations, say, hey, would you mind donating a toy? Not so much money, but buy a toy. I'll take it to them, let them know that this was donation, and that's how I do every year. So that's encompasses some of the things that I'm doing with Awesomeness. But Awesomeness will ultimately be an online platform that people will be able to find the resources. And when I'm talking about resources, it's not going to be one of your run-of-the-mill websites. You're going to have things that only autism parents will know. Only those in the neurodiverse community will actually know, like, wow, I can find this on here. This is great.
It won't be, what is autism?
Yeah.
Been there, done that.
We're going to talk. We're going to talk about, hey, these are the best spots to go for spas, for salons, for your awesome girl, for haircuts, for your awesome guy. Then also too, we're going to be looking at different therapies and techniques, and everybody on the website will be vetted through me or my staff. The other thing that I'm doing is that my organization will not only consist of those who are neurotypical. I will have people that will be a part of my board members that will be neurodivergent. And that's very important to me because I can't do anything for the community if I don't understand the community. So we have a lot of these big organizations that don't have anybody representing that community on the board. I want to be different. So yes, when I'm this year, I'm focusing a little bit more on the outlining of the structure. So we'll get that in place, still doing the community events, but get that in place and continue
still
on.
Working, still being a dad, still showing up to do podcasts.
Still doing all that, until my last breath.
And I like that you said that, because you got to feel the inspiration behind most people who do this is their children. As a parent, it really is.
The story is the same.
But you don't want to lose sight and then create these businesses or charities and have the basis of what you do on your child that's autistic years ago. You have to have current day, this is what it is to be autistic. This is my opinion. Because there's so many charities or organizations that we help autistic people. How? In which way? In which facet do you do this? Because I've got two, you've got one that can show us and other people, this is where I'm comfortable. This is what I want to do. This
is what makes me feel connected with other people, and that's important. I tell people all the time, nobody's going to outwork me. So if you follow me, you'll see everything that I do. And I'm consistently connecting with different communities and being out in the community. Sometimes I have 2 or 3 events the same day. Sometimes I have about 6 events a week. And I do that because for one, I need visibility. I need people to see the face behind the name.
Yes.
I'm just like you. I got
Yes.
tattoos and everything.
Yes.
I'm just like you.
Yep.
But I need people to hear my words. I need to be able for you to understand. I can articulate to a director of an organization,
Yep.
and I can talk to a community member at the same time and actually articulate the message the same way.
Exactly.
And you know, I'm having fun, and I'm building that legacy
Yeah.
that either my son is going to pick up and say, okay, I'm going to take over the reins, or I'm going to hand it over to someone on the board who's
Yeah.
actually a self-advocate that
Yeah.
can take over this organization and say, you know what, he built it. Now it's time for me to continue this,
Yeah.
and this is the direction that I want to go.
Yeah.
It's not about me. It's
Right.
it's only through me, but it's about everybody else. It's about you guys. So
Right.
I'm blessed to be able to
Right.
to get that started.
Yes. We are thankful. We're thankful for you coming in today. Very much. You do so much for the community, and you just continue doing it, I think.
I
Because
try to.
without people like you,
Which I do. Look,
it's, I know, I'm trying here, guys. So
Look.
we just really want to educate, and I think that's where the passion comes in.
You
Because
definitely,
you don't know what you're missing.
yeah,
Like, you don't know what you're missing.
You
So,
definitely are creating a safe space, and
Yeah.
I encourage you to keep pushing with this space.
Mhm.
I know, a lot of people are like, okay, it's another mob, and
Yeah.
yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's another mob, and that's the mission behind it. Is like, how do we get more
right.
of the fathers involved in
Yes.
this, more of the caretakers? But we need spaces like this,
Yeah.
and we need to support each other. So
Yep.
however that looks like, we need to be able to do that. One thing I'm very passionate about is that I'm not so naive to what's going on in the world
Right.
that I want to say this, but
Right.
I don't want the outside world in my world.
Mhm.
And the autism community is its own world, its own separate entity that's so beautiful
Mhm.
and passionate about each other that I don't want the troubles of the outside world to interfere with this world.
Right.
So as a man of this community, I present as a gatekeeper to try to withstand these things from coming into the world.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the best tool for ignorance and violence and things? It's always education.
Education.
So I'm always
Education.
consistently out here educating, not only educating but being educated.
Yes.
So that's the thing about me, is that I'm always ingesting
Mhm.
information, seminars, things that I can take back and disseminate towards everybody else who may not have the opportunity to
Yeah.
get that. That's my job.
Right. All right. Thank you again. I'm going to let you guys know one more time. Ausome Show.
Awesome Show, Awesomeness Incorporated. You can
Got
follow
it.
us, follow me, listen to the podcast, give your opinions.
Yep. And if anyone needs any toys, really quick, I have so many left. Happy to be able to give for the Christmas party that's going to occur. So to everyone that's donated, thank you, because not only is it going to
Thank
our
you.
families, but
Thank
I'm
you.
also able to give
Thank
two
you.
really big boxes
Thank
over
you.
here.
We're giving out
Yeah.
toys. If you see this and you have a request, I know Christmas is coming up, so it's kind of short, but maybe after Christmas, you still like Santa to show up
Right.
with a present and toy for your awesome child. Hit me up on Instagram. You can DM me. That's TheAusome.
Mhm.
That's the Awesome Show. The other page is Awesomeness, so AusomeNessinc. And let me know, and we can talk about it and see if I can swing around there with donations like this. I can
Yes.
come with a toy and talk to your awesome loved one. You could get some pictures and just allow me to let them know how special they are in this world.
Mhm.
But you parents are doing a great and amazing job. Please believe that. Believe in yourself and believe in the gift that you were bestowed upon whatever religion you may you may practice. That particular higher power believed in you and seen the blessing that this child would actually give to your life. So embrace that blessing. Look at the things that you can change in your heart through this child, and use that to catapult you to the next level of life and living.
Right.
And that's always give it back to others.
Right. All right, we'll leave it at that. I can't top that. We'll see you later, guys. Have a good night.